Mr. Housefather for 6, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kolensky, my first question is to you. On October the 7th, Hamas terrorists attacked Israel, creating the biggest massacre of Jews since the Second World War and the Holocaust. Since then, there's been a great increase in anti-Semitism all across the world, including here in North America, where today college campuses are being occupied by people spreading anti-Semitic messaging. How has Russia been involved in fermenting that happening?
Thank you very much. Russia is always happy about any single opportunity where they can increase the polarization of the audiences. And obviously this conflict is one of the most polarizing topics. So they will be using it to do their work. The aim with which they are doing it is probably to spread more of the anti-Western, anti-American sentiment, the US still being the chief target of their disinformation campaigns, and probably with the logic that Israel is perceived as the biggest ally of the US. So I think the motivation is this primitive. In order to denigrate the US, they will be spreading a lot of anti-Israeli sentiments.
Are they joining with Iran in doing that? How is Iran involved in terms of Iran's sponsorship of terrorist organizations, Hamas and Hezbollah, and how are they working with Russia to spread disinformation on social media?
I have to admit, I do not have a good information on how they cooperate. So there have been some reports about Russia cooperating with China in the information space. I'm not aware of reports about the cooperation with Iran. However, I would not be surprised if it was happening. Russia is happy for any help they can get.
And when people can create divisions in North American societies, for example, by amplifying, as Russia does on social media, tropes such as that Jews control the world or that Jews are more loyal to Israel than to their own countries, how does that help ferment dissension and division in North America, creating an opportunity for Russia to divert the world's attention from the war that it's launched against Ukraine?
This will be definitely part of the reason why they're doing that. If more people focus on what's happening in the Middle East, less people will be focusing on what's happening in Ukraine. The way how they will try to increase the polarization will be to spread very extreme messaging. But sometimes they are doing it for both sides of the barricade. We saw the Russians organizing both pro-Muslim and anti-Muslim rally in the United States. We saw them spreading both radically feminist messaging and very anti-feminist messaging. We saw them spreading both aggressively pro-migration content and anti-migration content. The point is to portray the other side of barricade as unreasonable and something that you cannot agree with. So if you exaggerate the demands or the statements of the other side, then you decrease the possibility of reasonable discussion.
You've seen evidence of Russia amplifying and increasing its social media reach following the October 7th attack on Israel.
I'm not aware of any inauthentic campaigns in this regard, but it might just not be. I haven't paid enough attention.
So what I understood is that in the 7 weeks, so there's an article that you're quoted in Politico in Europe that an organization called the Alliance for Securing Democracy had compiled stats that Russian Facebook accounts posted 44,000 times in the 7 weeks after the conflict began, compared to 14,000 weeks in the 7 weeks before the conflict began, thus a tripling of their social media posts. And that this activity on Facebook was shared almost 400,000 times collectively, a fourfold increase compared to posts published before the conflict. So I've seen in a number of different studies on social media, and I think we'll have a witness, Mr. Chair, on Thursday, who will be talking to this, about how Russia is trying to ferment strife in North America, in Canada and the United States, turning us against each other to divert action or attention away from their own misdeeds in Ukraine. So I think I'm almost finished, so I'll just leave it with you if you have any last comments, Mr. Kolensky.
No, I agree with you. They will be doing that, but sometimes they are just following the news cycle. So when we had the COVID pandemic, they were focusing on COVID. Now, because media focus so much on what's happening in the Middle East, they use this, but it might be something different in a few weeks again.
Okay. Okay, you still have a minute, Mr. Housefather.
Okay,
Yeah, so.
I didn't
don't wanna
realize
take-
I had another minute.
I don't want,
Wow. Okay. So let me turn my attention because Mr. Brigsman hasn't gotten any questions yet. Mr. Brigsman, do you have anything to say about what my questions on Russia and what Russia is doing to ferment disinformation in North America?
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. Just sort of very quickly, this is absolutely a phenomena. Russia, Iran, other entities do try to manipulate the information ecosystem in a country like Canada, and that is a phenomenon. We need to understand it, and we need to better study it. And some of the work I do is really about trying to sort of link entities from foreign countries and their penetration into the Canadian information ecosystem. And I can certainly talk about that more. But one of the things that is really key here that I really want to stress when we're talking about mis and disinformation, especially as it relates to sort of the work of parliamentarians, is a lot of this is domestic. It's not just the international that is driving polarization, that is driving toxicity, that is driving these things in our debate. They attempt to exacerbate. But as Mr. Kalinsky was saying, they use opportunities afforded by our political environment, events, moments when there's tension in Canada or in the United States or in other countries where there is political tension, and they try to amplify that. And so there needs to be sort of a concerted effort collectively to say, oh, okay, here's a moment when they're trying to polarize us. We need to take a step back and we're polarized on this issue. There's a problem here. We are going to have a heated debate.
that, Mr. Bridgman.
But it's not just because of them.
Yeah, sorry, sir, but that 1 minute grace turned into 1 minute overage. So